So here we are in September. It is an exciting month to be in the garden. There are likely fruits of your labor ready to harvest, and there's also seeds for next year's garden ready to save. So for this topic today, we're excited to have seed saver extraordinaire David Catzel from FarmFolk City Folk joining us today as our guest mentor. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is Tessa, and I am this island coordinator with Farm to School BC. Previously, I worked as an outdoor educator, a classroom teacher, community coordinator, and farmer, and it's incredible that I get to wear all these hats in this role with Farm to School BC. Before we start our workshop, I'd like to acknowledge that today I'm calling in from my home on the traditional unceded territory of the Catzel Nation, who's lived here since time immemorial. I'm a second-generation settler living on the land that's the lifeline of past and future Counts and generations, and it's my commitment to be part of reconciliation in this community. If folks would like to share where they're calling in from in the chat, that would be wonderful to see the range of territories and places that we're calling home across BC. Before we start, I'm just going to share a few facts about Farm to School BC. Farm to School BC is a program that brings healthy, local, sustainable food into schools across BC. We provide students with hands-on learning experience that develop food literacy, and we strengthen the local food systems by striving to enhance school and community connectedness. Farm to School BC is a program of the Public Health Association of BC, and we're supported by the province of British Columbia. Here is a look at our School Garden Mentorship series this year, and we're already at number 7 back into September. We have one more workshop coming up next month in October, and that's for winterizing your garden. We're going to be talking about season extension, about soil care, about winter planting, about green manures and crop covers. So a really fun workshop coming in October, and we can all get excited to put our gardens to bed for the winter. Madison will just pop a link in the chat to register, or you can head on over to our website to learn more about it as well. Okay, time to jump into our workshop today. Here's a picture of painted mountain corn from the school farm in Nanaimo. I just love this seed. It's so beautiful, all the colors it comes in. So to get us excited about seed saving, I wanted to post that picture there. We will start off our conversation today just kind of grounding ourselves in back to school in September mode and thinking about the garden as an outdoor classroom for this time of year. Then we're going to talk about seed saving. I'm going to be sharing some resources, some simple places to start, as well as some big places to dream. And then I'll also share some resources about harvesting and cooking and preserving food with your class. But I'm going to keep that brief because we have our amazing community mentor, David, from FarmFolk City Folk, and David's going to do a deeper dive into seed saving and seed stewardship in the classroom and provide an intro to an amazing lesson plan created by FarmFolk City Folk. So before we get into our other topics today, I just want to kind of ground us in the fact that it's the 3rd week of school. We made it this far. September's a wild ride. And ideally, it can bring a little bit of calm in this nice weather to come outside and spend some time in the garden this time of year. The garden's a wonderful place when you're building classroom community. It's a place of connection, a place of relationship building, a place of classroom culture development. And so if you can take the time to step outside, get into the garden, it can be a really nice place in this transition month as you're welcoming a new class. I think the garden really exemplifies these cycles and shifts and transition as we're watching the seasons change in the garden. And it can be a great prompt as you're experiencing all these transition experiences in the classroom as well. So just a wonderful place to spend September. Being September and we're establishing classroom routines, it's also time to establish our outdoor learning routines. And I'm not going to dive into this today because we have many other things to talk about, but I just want to highly recommend a webinar. It's hosted by Groundbreakers, an outdoor education organization in Terrace. And this is one of the best 1 hours I've spent listening to talk about tips for successfully and routinely exposing students to the power of outdoor learning. I was an outdoor educator before becoming a classroom teacher, and I think this 1 hour synthesizes so much of my learnings over those years. So I really recommend, as you're setting up and establishing garden routines, taking a listen to this 1 hour webinar. So before we hear from David for a deeper dive into seed saving, I just wanted to share some big picture ideas about the practice of bringing seed saving into your school garden and into your classroom. Just note, these are beautiful fava beans, purple fava beans saved by Chris Brown. Some of you are probably familiar with Farmer Brown. Before I start, I just wanted to share a story. A story is a nice place to start. And this is a story about my own experience. I love growing dried beans. And I think dried beans were kind of my entry point into seed saving. They're so easy to save and they're so beautiful. Dried beans come in all these different varieties with these exquisite colors and so many different varieties that have been passed down for years and years. I started growing them and realized this wonderful thing that I grow to eat in the winter, I can also just plant again in the spring. How simple is that? And how easy is that to start selecting varieties and enjoying different certain color variations that I was finding in my own beans. And when I started, I was growing in big scale and I was just processing the seeds by stomping on them and using a shop vac to blow away the husks. And it was a really quick way to shell them. And then I realized I was actually missing out on the best part, which was the process of shelling the beans and the process of engaging communities in seed saving. And so I started instead just carrying around totes of beans that needed shelling everywhere I went. And I became a classroom teacher during that time. And I started bringing these bins of seeds into my classroom. And I realized what happened is that our classroom would gather on these bins and we'd have conversation that was almost like sitting around a campfire. And it was incredible to watch these students come together over shelling beans. And invariably, every time a student would like try to slip a few in their pocket or they'd negotiate with me like, oh, can I take 2 of this color or 5 of these ones? And I realized that there was a joy for these students in holding these seeds that they realized would grow a whole nother plant. And that power of a seed for their own control over their food system, their own seed sovereignty, their own food sovereignty. And I realized that it's that experience, that kids holding seeds in their hands, is the kids wanting to slip a seed into their pocket that makes this process so powerful. It doesn't matter the scale of seeds you're saving in your class or how or why you're saving them, but just to have a student want to put a seed in their pocket, I think that really shows the beauty and power of saving seeds with your class. So if that's got you want to get going on seed saving, I wanted to share a simple place to start. Seed saving can be complex with isolation distances and biennial plant life cycles and cross-pollination, but it can also be really easy. So here's a few simple places to start. Like I mentioned, beans and peas are great this time of year. They're often dried on the stalk, especially if your garden hasn't had as much water and they're ready to save. Lettuce is also one that often bolts this time of year and is ready to save. Tomatoes are super fun because you get like a really like hands-on experience of pulling the goopy seeds out, watching them ferment, and then washing them and cleaning them. So that's a neat one for those real hands-on learners. And then flowers too. This is a picture of calendula. Lots of school gardens have calendulas, sunflowers, and those are quite simple seeds to save as well. So start simple, but don't hesitate to dream big. There's some schools doing that are very involved in seed saving and doing some neat connections with it. This is a picture of a school in Nanaimo, Dover Bay Secondary School. This is an entirely student-led initiative where they actually have part of their garden designated just for seed saving. And they're growing varieties, saving those seeds, and then selling those as a fundraiser. Initially, they had an online seed catalog that they were selling them through, and now they attend CD Saturdays. And it's been a wonderful event that's really flourished their student connection to the garden, also their connection outward to the community. Another way to connect out to communities is to connect to seed libraries. Some libraries, as well as community centers or other community organizations, have started seed libraries, and it's a place where the community can exchange seeds. So you can bring seeds from your school garden or pick up seeds that someone else has saved and bring that back to your garden. And it's a really nice way to make those authentic community connections and make that learning more meaningful and embedded in the community through connecting to seed libraries. Another fun way to connect to community is last year, Farm to School BC, we started our Seed Pen Pal program. It was our first year last year, and we had classrooms across BC sharing seeds and sharing garden stories. It was wonderful, so we're going to do it again this year. So stay tuned for the launch of this year's Seed Pen Pal program this winter. Just a reminder, as we're talking about all these different ways to save seeds in your class, that there are also many curriculum connections. We often connect the school garden to science. That's kind of an intuitive connection. But just to remember that we can also connect to many of the other curriculum subjects. So a reminder to connect to numeracy. Chris Brown a couple years ago shared some ideas around cleaning and sorting with seeds, data collection, patterning, graphing, looking at germination rates, a great way to teach about percentages. So don't forget about those numeracy connections when you're seed saving. And there's also wonderful literacy connections with seed saving. You can look at seed stories, look at seed heritage, look at Indigenous seed stories. There's some incredible stories about how varieties get their names over the years and how they're passed down from people across generations. And they can be wonderful prompts for students' own creative writing experiences as well. So perhaps you're ready to go, but you need still to know how to do all this work. David's going to get into more resources, but I just wanted to highlight this one. These are the crop cards, seed saving crop cards. They were created in collaboration with FarmFolk City Folk and Farm to School BC, and they're a great place to start. They're really focused to be used in the classroom, so they share some fun facts about the plants as well as detailed instructions about how to save seeds for each of those. So before David does even a deeper dive into seed saving, I just wanted to share a few resources about harvesting and cooking too, because this time of year, there's not just seeds to harvest, there's also perhaps food to harvest in your garden. You might want some ideas about how to bring that into your classroom. As a starting place, you may have returned back to your garden in September and water may have been shut off or your volunteers didn't come like you thought they would. And just don't disillusion. This picture is a school garden in Nanaimo, and it's a common experience for school gardens to look like this time of year. But there's still so many harvest experiences in a garden that was neglected over the summer. I walked around this garden and I found some dried peas and I was holding them in a hand. And I was like, we could grow microgreens. Or maybe we could use these as our seeds for next year. Or maybe we could do a harvest soup and we could put these in as our protein. So even in a garden like this, there's so many different harvest experiences. And I think if we're focused more about the experience, engaging out there, looking at season cycles, looking at the life cycles in a garden, rather than the product of how much we're harvesting, it's that experience that I think is actually the meaningful part for students. So just remember to kind of look deep and see what sort of experiences we can have connecting to the seasonal shifts in the garden this time of year. Echoing the same sentiment, focusing more on harvest experiences than harvest outcomes, last year in June, Chris Brown offered a wonderful workshop on harvest celebrations and harvest traditions. He discussed it around spring harvest, but they're really relevant year-round to engaging students in harvest activities in the garden. So head on over and take a look at that if you're looking at how you want to frame the act of harvesting and engaging in harvest experiences in your garden. In the workshop, Chris mentioned he saw students making harvest tacos. I've had the same experience where I had kids just on their own set up a taco stand in the garden, which was such an awesome experience. And they were creating these kale tacos and selling them to students at lunchtime. And so I just wanted to also encourage those like emergent harvest activities. These things don't need to be teacher-led. It's wonderful when they're student-led, and they can be as simple as taking a kale leaf and sprinkling some other herbs or flower petals on top and wrapping it up and calling it a taco. It's amazing how many kale leaves kids will eat when they're called tacos. So nice to focus on some of those smaller harvest experiences as well. If you do have sizable harvests and you're wanting to know the best tips or tricks for harvesting, just a reminder that the crop cards that you perhaps use to plant your vegetables in the spring also have harvest information. So head back to the Farm to School BC crop cards and look for the harvest section, and you'll see some suggestions around doing a successful harvest. Once it's harvested and you're bringing it into the classroom, a reminder that the Hands-on Food website is a wonderful place to go for resources for cooking food, preserving food, and also looking at composting food. There's a bunch of different recipes as well as some just like really great practical tips such as knife skills. This website was created in collaboration with Farm to School BC, the Public Health Association of BC, Interior Health, and School District 73, and it's a really comprehensive place to look for how to process and cook harvests in your classroom. There's some fun lesson plans like food art. So again, your harvest doesn't have to be huge. You can have a few things that you're harvesting and find some creative ways to explore tastes and colors and shapes in your classroom. One of my favorite harvest activities this time of year is stone soup. Stone soup is based on an old folk tale about a community sharing food to bring their own food security. And there's some great lesson plans out there. A lot of them are based off books of the story, so Stone Soup. To save you from doing the deep dive of lesson plans online, I really recommend the one from Food Share in Toronto, and we will share that in our program library. It's a wonderful connection of Stone Soup to social studies and to literacy, and really looks at Stone Soup from this kind of community food security perspective. It's neat because Stone Soup can be made in a crock pot. It can either be made from produce from your garden, or I've also made it with my class where every student brings in one vegetable from either their home garden or a vegetable they purchased, and together you collaborate to make this beautiful pot of soup. So a really nice activity for classrooms coming together and creating community this time of year. Food Share Toronto in general has incredible food literacy resources. They really have an equity focus in their resources. They've just updated their whole website, and I really encourage you to take a look at Food Share Toronto. Okay, that was a little bit of a whirlwind through harvesting and seed saving, but it's going to slow down. David's going to share much more in-depth examples and resources around seed saving in the garden. But before we do that, just to spice it up, keep us on our toes, we're going to do a little giveaway break here. And we're going to do a seed matching game. So FarmFolk City Folk created this wonderful card deck of plant life cycle cards. And on each card is a picture of a plant at a different stage of its life cycle. So you can connect what a plant looks to through its growing stages, its flowering, its fruiting stages, and its seeding stages. So it's a great resource to use with your class. And it's also going to be a little game here on Zoom. So in a minute, I'm going to pull up a picture of a plant that shows its flowering, fruiting, and seeding stage. You're going to look at those pictures and you're going to try to figure out what vegetable are we talking about. And in chat, as quickly as you can type the name of the vegetable. The first person to correctly guess will receive either a deck of the plant life cycle cards or a color printed version of the seed saving crop cards sent to your way. We'll do these 4 times. So have a little bit of a warm up here and then we'll move into David's presentation. So in a minute, I'm going to show you the next slide. Figure out what you think it is and then write the vegetable into chat. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Resounding. Kale's coming in. Awesome. Brassica seeds look really similar, but the flower in the seed pod hopefully gives a little tip. Awesome. Okay, we're warmed up. That was kale. Ready for the next one. Keep those typing fingers ready. 3, 2, 1. We got the same heavy hitters here on chat. I think we have some pro seed savers. That's great. Just so you know, after we do this giveaway, we will, Madison, our comms coordinator here, and she will reach out just to get your mailing address to claim your prizes. So she'll direct message you over chat once we're done with this. Okay, there's 2 more. That one was lettuce. Nice work. Okay, 3, 2, 1. It is carrots. Carrots, dill look really similar. Queen Anne's lace, wild carrot. There's a lot that have that same kind of beautiful flower umbrella. But nice work for those that put in carrot. Okay, the last one. They're getting progressively harder. We will start the last one in 3, 2, 1. This one is tricky, and beet and chard so closely related and look so similar. I could see that being a really tricky one. Those are beets. Maybe David could help us with some tips on how to tell beet versus chard apart. Beet seeds are so cool to really look closely with students. Put them under the magnifying glass. There's like a couple seeds stuck together in these beautiful patterns. So beets, I think it goes to Sonia. Nice to see
Actually,
Sonia.
then I changed my mind and thought it was spinach, so I shouldn't get it. It should go to someone else. I took a moment of hesitation. It's definitely beets. It's definitely beets.
Looks so similar. Okay, well, thank you everyone for engaging in a little fun giveaway break. Look forward to having some FarmFolk City Folk and Farm to School BC resources mailed your way. I'm delighted now to pass the mic over to David Catzel, the BC Seed Security Program Manager with FarmFolk City Folk. David started his farming career in Vancouver, working with the Environmental Youth Alliance, running gardening programs for youth at a community gardens. He had the opportunity to experiment with seed growing, breeding, low-till annual production, intercropping, and companion planting while working at Glorious Organics Co-op in Aldergrove, BC. David taught workshops in gardening, composting, permaculture, seed savings to adults and kids all over the Lower Mainland. So it's a delight to have David on the call today, and I'm thrilled to get to learn from him alongside you all. So I'm going to stop share now and hand it over to David to bring up his screen.
Thank you, and thanks for the introduction, so I don't have to do that. Let's see. Okay, everybody see that okay? All right. Well, welcome. It's great to be here. I love talking about gardening as a school project. I believe that we could actually learn all of our school curriculum in the garden without even being in the classroom. And I love the connections to all the curriculum. I can't think of any curriculum you can't connect school garden work to. So I'm going to tell you mostly what I'm going to do is tell you about some resources that we developed, and I know Tessa said we developed them, but totally in collaboration with Farm to School and a whole lot of teachers that we engaged with. We wouldn't have come up with these on our own, and it was really helpful to have feedback from teachers and Farm to School crew to guide us in how to sort of move forward on this project. We always start. I'm gonna present to you the resources, which are a series of PowerPoint workshops that teachers have access to. All of them start with a slide like this. It's a seed acknowledgement. I'm calling in, I'll just say in terms of a land acknowledgement from the Lower Mainland on the Kwantlen territory, unceded lands, as well as the Nooksack, who aren't actually recognized as a nation in Canada, but I'm very close to the US border, so they used to engage in this territory as well. What we often do when we talk about land acknowledgements, especially in relation to seeds, is we shift it and talk about a seed acknowledgement, because just as land, seeds weren't something that were seeded or given up, and they are seen as really belonging to different, to all of us really, but all of our ancestors and different ancestors. The indigenous seed keepers say that they understand seeds are precious collective inheritance, and it's our responsibility to care for the seeds as part of our responsibility to feed and nourish ourselves for future generations. And we always say we care for the seeds because they've cared for us. Without seeds, you don't have food. And we called this a seed stewardship project because that's really what we wanted to impart on kids. Not There's lots of information, as Tessa said, that, you know, there's lots of connections to science, and we didn't necessarily want to focus on that. The overall dream was for, you know, for example, a grade 5 group of students being so excited to grow seeds so that they could hand them off to the grade 4s that are going to be grade 5s next year and grow those out. For the grade 3s that are going to be grade 5s in 2 years, you get the point. And that's what stewardship is. It's about not just having seeds, but actually knowing that you're part of their ongoing availability to future generations. So we at FarmFolk City Folk, we weren't really interested in getting into working in school gardens, mostly because there's so much of that already happening and such amazing work happening. There didn't seem to be a need for us to do that. But we did see that there was a lack of seed growing information in a lot of the school gardening programs, and we just thought it was a missed opportunity. So we started developing these resources a couple years ago in the fall. In collaboration with Farm to School, we got connected to I'd say about 6 to 8 different schools across the province. And our plan was to go in person and run a series of workshops through the year, 4 workshops through the year. And through that, we would sort of develop the workshop and figure out how it needed to change in the future. And so that's what we thought we were developing, was just a series of 4 long in-person workshops that would lead to seeds being saved and passed on to the next generation. But what we found with feedback from Farm to School, and certainly a lot of teachers, is that that sort of long format didn't work, and trying to coordinate somebody else coming in to do that work sometimes doesn't always work. And what was requested was shorter bite-sized presentations that the teachers could kind of just do on their own with a bit of resources and help. And so what we've developed on our website is a series of I believe there's 13 short presentations. They're only about 10 slides each, and each of them have connections to curriculum and connections to different games and activities that are also available on the website to download. So I'm going to show those. So yeah, 13 bite-sized lesson plans. You can do them in any order. We, maybe suggest going in order, but it really doesn't matter. You can start anywhere. The seed life cycle, like the growing life cycle, it doesn't begin and end. It just keeps going. So at this time of year, you might start on the seed cleaning slide, presentations, and then move forward from there. So this is a quick list of the workshops. So I said 13, but I lied. There's 12. And oh, by the way, if anybody has questions while I'm presenting, feel free to interrupt or throw it in the chat. But there will be time afterwards for questions as well. I'm going to try to breeze through this so we have more time for discussion though. So this is a lesson plan. I'm going to walk through just one of the presentations that we have on the website that's available, and then I'll probably share my screen and just show you where to find it on the website. So this is this bite-sized lesson plan. This is how plants make seeds. So this is what you'd see the topic. The subtopics are reproduction, pollination, pollinators, annuals, biennials. Then as part of that whole package, there's a slide presentation that you can download in a number of different formats. And then there's, as part of that slide presentation, there's a stop motion video that you can play with a little warning. It is a YouTube, so there's advertisements on it. As I go through it, I'm not going to play it, but you guys can check it out later if you like. And then there's a list of activities. And again, on the website, you can find these activities. You can download them for free. The seed matching game we do have up on our website, and you're welcome to download them and print them for free. But we found it was really nice to have professionally made decks, so we did get them printed, and they've been very popular. We sell them off of the website, and we're planning on doing another run of them, so they should continue to be available. So this is sort of there's the first slide of the workshop. Second slide, and in the notes there'll be notes about some talking points about seed acknowledgements. Then there's a bit of a slide on bean dissection, so the kids can see what the inside of a seed looks like. Basics of plant biology and reproduction. Different ways that plants share pollen. This is the YouTube. I'm not going to play it, but it's a little short stop motion video. It's kind of fun. I believe this presentation is more for the grades 1 to 8 category. There are some slightly more advanced ones for the older kids. And then just a slide to just think about sort of what they saw in that video. How do you think pollen travels faster when blown by wind or carried by insects? Interesting question. I don't know if I know the answer. Sometimes we say wind pollinated plants travel further, but those bees can go a fair distance. So it's sometimes hard to say. And just thinking about how pollen moves around and what they saw in the video. This is an example of types of pollination. So there's a sheet, one of the resources that we share is a sheet of all different food crops. It was a resource created by Seed Savers Exchange, and it tells you, it's basically the cheat sheet for saving all these seeds. It tells you sort of your population size and how far away they need to be from one another and that. And I will say, there's easy to save seeds and hard to save seeds, and it's good to know about the distances you need to separate them from each other so that they don't cross-pollinate. But it doesn't mean you can't save seeds from them if they were too close to something. And in a lot of ways, that's the fun part of it, is just save seeds. Know that you've not done it right, save seeds and replant it, and you learn so much from doing that. So I encourage people not to go, oh no, there weren't enough of a population, or, that squash was too close to that squash. save them anyway, and all the mistakes they're all food anyway. So you get to eat the mistakes regardless. This is just about the life cycle of plants. So some plants are annuals, some are biennials, and some are perennials. And some confuse us and they act like biennials, even though they're actually perennials. Like tomatoes, for example, we grow them here as annuals, but those are actually perennial plants. And then there's a summary and instructions for just ongoing ideas. There's and then links to the resources that we have. Like there's a suggestion to do the running game, which is it's kind of like a go pollinator, stop pollinator game that one of our previous coordinators created. The seed matching game, which you all saw, can be connected to a lot of the presentations. This is a description of a seed field game. You'd have to have some seeds on hand, and it's a more tactile version, I guess, of the seed matching game. We'd have the students close their eyes, and we'd walk behind them and hold the thing of seeds, so they're just feeling it without looking at it. And yeah, here's the description of the go pollinator, stop pollinator. So the link on the website, you'll be able to, see all these games and a description of how to play them. And then this is the website. So I'm just going to quickly go through. This is the front page of our website. If you click under what we do and you look down at school seed stewardship, you get a description of the project. And then down below is a table of contents. If you click on these, you'll get curriculum notes for the different grade levels. And then here there's a link to activities. And then so for each of the presentations, here's the first one on seed stewardship. You would click on the lesson plan. These are PDF slides you can download, or you could download the Microsoft PowerPoint version. There's the seed saving crop cards that go with this one as well. There's a link to the video that you would see as part of the workshop, the presentation, if you wanted to have that separate. And that's basically what they look like. And then on the seed matching game, you can download them. Maybe I won't take time to have this load. My computer's being slow, but this is what it looks like. It'll download into a PDF, and then you can print them out yourself. That way you can have the kids cut them out for you if you like. And I'll just mention a couple other things before I end. A couple other activities that the seed program runs that would be pretty appropriate for schools is the citizen seed trial. We've been running this since 2016, and in the past, often we'll do like summer crops or fall crops. But back in that year, we were sort of creating these resources. We decided to really make sure we focused the crops on early spring crops and ones that teachers could plant with their kids and have a crop before the end of the school year. I love the picture of that overgrown garden that looks like nobody cared about it. That looks so productive to me. It's what my garden looks like right now. And yeah, there's not huge amounts of food, but every one of those pea seeds you were holding is a whole pea plant. So there's a lot of food potential in a garden like that. So if the gardens look like that, that's fine. But it's nice to have something that you can harvest, by June with the kids, or at least something you can look at and assess. And so the citizen seed trial, often what we'll do is we'll have two different varieties of the same crop, and you're just comparing them. So this year we did a cilantro trial, for example, two varieties, and all you had to look for is which one bolts faster than the other. It might have been hard to do by the end of June, but you also might see differences in growth. So it just really helps gardeners and especially the kids sort of practice their observation skills in the garden. And then we also, this year, we had a kale breeding project and a lettuce breeding project, and that would have involved planting those crops early in the year and harvesting the seeds. So again, that was one of the challenges we had doing the workshops in the school, is that you do workshops all year in growing your seed crop, and the next year it's a different class that's going to be harvesting the seed crop. So it would be really great to either have that same class come back to harvest it or work with the next grade that's going to show up to do the harvest. So for the lettuce and kale, for example, that's something you could plant and tend until June. And as long as you have somebody to at least keep the plants alive, you'll have lots at the end of the year. And there might be lettuce seeds at the end of this year. Kale seeds, being a biennial, actually stay in the ground a whole other through the winter, and you would harvest seeds the following season. So even more chance for the whole stewardship conversation. So yeah, that's our citizen seed trial. And then this is sort of all of the seed program stuff we do. Just to give you a bit of a rundown, we have a seed to food program where we have hub sites around the province, and one of the byproducts of seeds is actually food. So the food from our seed projects go to the food banks and different centers. We have mobile seed cleaning unit that moves around the province. We have had these come to schools before. We worked with Butler Urban Farm in Kamloops, and they brought a few kids out, a few classrooms of kids out to do a huge amount of seed cleaning. It's funny because the equipment on there is to help farmers clean seeds more efficiently. But as Tessa mentioned, 30 kids and 60 hands can clean beans probably more efficiently and faster than a lot of the equipment we have on the trailer. So if we could get a trailer that had enough seats for 30 kids, we could just drive them around the province and have them clean seeds for farmers would be great. And then the citizen seed trial I mentioned, the BC seed gathering is mostly for farmers. It happens every 2 years. The CD Saturday library capacity building projects. These are great groups. It might be great groups for schools to get involved with if there's a CD Saturday happening in your community. And definitely if there's a seed library happening, seed librarians are more than happy to know that their work is being replicated in somewhere like a public school library. So if there's capacity to have even a tiny little seed library in your school, I think that's a great project for kids and the community as well. We run public seed events and farmer field days. When we did the project at the different schools, we tried to have one of the 4 workshops we did actually open to the public. It was sometimes a bit challenging. What we tried to do is actually have a summer workshop at the school. But we found, yeah, the rate that there's not a lot of students or teachers that show up in the summer. So it really was just a workshop in the garden for other people, which was fun too. And then the Canovi and Bauta initiative, those are similar to the citizen seed trial, but for farmers and larger scale sort of breeding projects. But a lot of the seeds from those breeding projects end up in places like seed libraries and the citizen seed trial crops. So, okay, that's it. I just breezed through that, and I think there's lots of time for questions now. If anybody has them, I'll stop sharing my slides.
Thanks, David. That was wonderful. I love the image I get from like eating your mistakes. Good to know isolation distances, but also still like play with those boundaries. And so much of our learning happens on those edges and figuring out why and how things come to be the way they are.
Yeah, and
I
as you
love your
said,
approach.
mistakes are the best teachers, and I tell gardeners and farmers all the time that you have to embrace failure every year because it's guaranteed. Something's going to fail every year, and you celebrate your wins, but you learn from those mistakes. I need to make mistakes at least 3 times, unfortunately, before I learn from them, but some people can do it in one.
We have a wonderful growth mindset, and so nice that the garden's a great place for kids to really explore that.
Mhm. I'm
So
curious
folks
if there's anybody here who has used any of these resources. Awesome. Yeah. And
if folks
so
have questions for David, you're welcome to put up your hand, or you can write it in chat and we can also ask it to David. But I do see Sonia's hand up to get us started.
Hi, David. Thank you so much for the presentation. I get so excited I feel like the resource page too, I don't know if it looks a little different, but like it's looking like really great in terms of the way that the lesson plans are laid out like that. That's looking awesome, so accessible.
Great.
I have a question and also like a comment. So actually my first question is, do you know if the like mobile seed cleaner is coming to the interior this year? That's my first question.
It's passed through the interior already, I think.
Already did. Okay, sorry, I
Where
must have missed.
where are you?
I'm in Kamloops. Yeah, I was at the Buff one. Yeah.
It was at the Stir.
Okay, they did it this year. I wasn't sure because their facility setup changed a little bit. And so yeah, okay, cool. It was at the Stir.
Yeah,
Great.
our unfortunately our trailer tour was it was very last minute that we had confirmed funding, so the planning of it
Okay.
was very last minute. Yeah.
No, that's okay. That's also on me to check it out, but I'm glad it came through. And then I guess just to offer a piece of reflection on using the equipment at Buff, like the Butler Urban Farm, I was like there with the kids that day. And one thing I noticed that makes me think about expanding the opportunity into other learning was that kids were fascinated with like the bike, like the pedaling setup in terms of the cleaning system. And it just makes me think like there's such a great opportunity to engage ADST and like thinking about like inventions for seed cleaning for kids. Like there's like, I think there's a way to expand into different topics with kids or make like an inquiry project of like invent a seed cleaner. Like I just think it was the most exciting thing for them, and like the way it was constructed and just getting them to like use their body and like have that motion piece was so lovely for kiddos who needed to move. So I just want to put a shout out for like, you know, maybe it might not be available to the school, but like if you get a chance to like see pictures of it or like videos, like it's really fun to think about ways to like invent seed cleaning apparatuses. So yeah.
The piece of equipment that Sonia was just referring to, I think, is I just put a link in the chat. We built our own from this website. It's a website called FarmHack, and it has all sorts of open source plans. So if you have a school, you're connected to a school that has a shop program that has the ability to build one of those, it would be amazing. They're definitely a lot of fun. It was yeah. We took them to farmers markets, and there's just kids riding them the whole time.
I have a question, I guess. So I'm really lucky this year. So I reached out to Lisa Willett, and I have the seed cleaning van coming to Galliano to help our seed library. And so I figured out that they're actually here for 2 nights. So I locked them into coming to our very small school on Galliano Island. And I'm, kind of for the past like month, I've been trying to think of what seeds we're going to actually process, because usually I grow seeds that are really easy to hand process: peas, beans, lettuce, all the ones that have been mentioned. And I'm just yeah, I'm reaching out to people I know who might have things that would be good to process via machinery, just so we can demonstrate it, because I don't grow grains. And anyway, I just thought I'd put it out there if anyone has any ideas about what seeds I should look for to process.
Do you have like kale that's in seed in the garden, or?
No, because all of our kale that was in seed was in the spring, and we harvested it then, or ate the pods, because we eat a lot of kale. We eat a lot of pods. Yeah, I do
The
have some
other
broccoli though.
broccoli seed.
Yeah.
That's a fun, easy one to clean, and a lot of the seed cleaning equipment will do well. The other thing you could do, I lived on Galliano for a year. You have lots of wild spaces, and you probably have a lot of wild seeds somewhere
Oh
out
yeah.
there. If there's nettle patches that are maybe that's not the best.
Oh, no, we're the school that has Nettle Fest. So
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, It would be
Definitely
interesting
nettle.
to try to see if you can find some nettles, like if there's nettles that have dried seed on them. They're an
Mhm.
interesting one because they're a dioecious plant. There's only half of them make seeds. They have separate sort of pollen producing plants and pollen accepting plants. So yeah, you could try some wild crops. You could yeah. But
That's a
I'm
great idea.
hopefully, are there people from the community coming as well, or there might also be leftover seeds from the other event on Galliano that they might be able to clean there?
Yeah, yeah. Our event is actually the day before, and
Okay,
I'm lucky that I am a parent. I'm the school gardener. I'm on the pack. Like I wear many hats, so I know who has seed and who doesn't. So I've tapped a few community members who
okay.
maybe were gonna be at the event and could potentially bring their seed there to help them and help us. Um, I Yeah, I have a pretty big challenge because we have these multi-age classrooms. So just to, yeah, the challenge is always making it accessible to all the grades and all the developmental levels. So I really appreciate all the resources that you guys have, and I use them a lot. So thank you. And these are great ideas. Nettle, should have thought of that. Mm.
Any other questions? Sonia?
No one else has a question. I just want to ask David, we're trying here at this farm I'm working at to save seed for eggplant. Would you know anything about success stories with that? We're
Yeah,
getting experience like from Danielle and Ed, farmers in the area. Anyway, Soul Gardens is their garden. Anyway, and I just was curious if you've had experience with eggplant.
yeah, I wet water process it.
Hmm.
So, have you seen the threshing bucket we have? Or you can use a drill and a paint mixer, or you can just stomp it, but you basically mush it up and mix it with a bunch of water, and it's similar to tomatoes. The seeds will sink to the bottom and the pulp and stuff will float to the top, and you
Mhm.
can kind of canter it off.
The thing that's different that I'm noticing so far is that it doesn't seem to ferment like tomatoes. Like, is the eggplant meant to ferment? I wasn't smelling anything. I was like, what are we doing here? So I wasn't sure if we like missed something there.
I don't think it needs to, because when the seeds come out in the water, they don't really have that sort of the gel around them. They're fairly clean already. So yeah, you could, leave them for a day or so, but I wouldn't, you probably don't need to leave them for too long. Yeah. Put them in a big bucket, get the kids to stomp them with their bare feet or something.
Yeah, Sonia, that sounds so much fun. I feel like kids should be involved, even to like the electric drill with a paint mixer, like all of it. Seems like a
Totally.
great experience.
Yeah. And David, sorry, I put in the chat. I'm sorry, I'm taking airtime. Would yarrow be one you'd experiment with in terms of a wild seed? I was just geeking out on like the edible ability of the seed, and then wondered like if that could be something that would be manageable, like for Shauna, if you had wild yarrow or something. But I just don't know how easy it would be.
Hmm. Are you saying the seed's edible or?
According to a resource I was recently looking at, like you can make different like crackers and things with the seed of yarrow, and I have to like brush up on the other bits, but my impression was just like the leaves and flowers are used for teas, but looks like the seed can be used for edible bits and bobs. So it might
Yeah,
take a little more research, but I just didn't know if that would be a tricksy one.
it's certainly a medicinal crop and would be fun to grow, and a great insect crop. So yeah, if you have some in seed, it'd be worth grabbing it to clean. I noticed in the chat somebody mentioned, oh, you have lots of orac. That's a fun, interesting one to clean too. I believe that orac actually has two types of seed. There's a bigger seed that's surrounded in a coat, and there's a smaller seed that's this tiny little black thing. And the germination of orac is very uneven, and this is a great sort of evolution lesson for kids. They don't all germinate at once, and that's a mechanism for plants to perpetuate themselves, because if all your seeds fall and they germinate right now and then the winter kills them all the seeds are dead. But ORAC doesn't do that. It kind of sits in the ground. Some germinate now, some later, some next year. Sometimes you plant it and none of it comes up, but then it comes up flush in the garden where you didn't plant it. So yeah, some of those wild seeds are kind of fun to work with. And fennel, yeah, that's a good one. If there's probably somebody's got some fennel seed around this time of year. Plantain, yellow dock, mullein. There might be mullein on the island. That's a very easy one to clean, and it's very giving. France, you have your hand up?
Yes, yes. I do have radishes.
Oh,
Like it's in my personal garden, but I was thinking, and then by accident I forgot it, and it makes beautiful white flower.
mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, is the seed are going to be after the flower, or how does it work?
Is it in white flower now?
Yeah,
Are there any seed pods showing yet?
I haven't. Well, I should. I didn't have a look for the last few days, but
Mm.
that's something they should look for, I guess.
I'm waiting for radish seeds myself to ripen, and being a bit worried they're not going to ripen in time. So it is kind of at the end of the season right now, but they might very well ripen. They continue ripening, so the ones lower down on the stem will probably be ripe even while there's still flowers on the top of them.
Yeah, I'm sure that the radish is probably very hard and not
Yeah.
edible. Yeah,
Yeah, I
but
wouldn't try eating it at this point, but
yeah. But it's very interesting. Like I forgot it, and I decided to let it grow because it was so beautiful. Like it's
Mhm. And even if the seeds aren't, if they're not mature and ready, there's still an opportunity to bring them into the classroom, open them up, and look at them at that stage. Like, look, they're little green seeds. They're not hard yet. How do you tell when a seed is ripe? Ideally, like a seed's ripe if you open up a seed pod. If you can squish the seed and destroy it, it's not ready. It's too soft. A
okay.
seed's really quite hard when it's ripe. So that's
Okay,
kind of can be a fun activity for the kids, just to take a look at them and see when they're ready or not. Yeah.
and I'm sure like they haven't seen a radish and flower like that, so that would be
Yeah.
interesting.
And the flowers you can eat as well. So that
Oh,
might be
okay.
fun for them to eat those. Yeah.
Okay, and maybe it's sweeter than the radish itself, right?
It is a little sweeter than the radish. It has a slight radishy taste, but yeah,
Okay,
definitely sweeter. Plus it's a flower. Kids like eating flowers.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Which is another thing about seed saving. You let your plants go through that whole life cycle, and you can you miss eating your broccoli, you can put all the flowers in your salad.
Brent, you make me think that I have some radishes that were flowering a month ago and I need to go out and check. And it also makes me think, if you are a teacher wanting to save seeds for your class, but you don't have them, reach out to local farmers or other gardeners in your community, and see what they have overgrown in their garden that's ready with seeds, and bring those stocks into your classroom. I think it's nice to make it a community event as well. We have time for one or two more questions if folks have other thoughts for David.
If there's not a lot of seeds around, I love just sending the kids out into the garden or the field. It can even be a field, and just go see if you can find seeds, and they'll come back with some. They're there.
While we're waiting for other questions, David, I just really wanted to highlight, you shared the resources that you've created. Those slide decks, and David mentioned that there is script below the slide decks. They're so valuable as a teacher to be able to have a resource that's just ready to go. The slides are there for your class to see. You have your own notes. You don't need to be familiar with a topic to be able to still share and learn alongside your students with them. So that resource, I wish all lesson plans were made the way that FarmFolk City Folk has made these. Are just so accessible and quick to be able to co-learn with your class.
I'll say one thing that we haven't done, and I kind of want to say we will do, but I'm not sure about my availability and time, but I would love to get some sort of feedback form on the website. But just so this group knows, or anybody who listens to this presentation or uses the resources, please feel free to just reach out and email me directly, or anybody at FarmFolk, send a message if there's any suggestions you have on these resources. I don't think they're finished. I think like all resources, we have to constantly improve them and work on them. So any questions you have, if there's missing text or context in any of the slides, happy to kind of update them and improve them as we go.
I'll say thank you, David, for sharing your knowledge. I feel like I want more questions just because I want to hear more answers from you, because I feel like you just have this like wealth of passion and knowledge for seeds, and it's so nice to get little snippets into that. And I'm excited hearing about all the other seed stewardship and seed security projects that FarmFolk City Folk has on the go. And I'm going to go and check out the website again, but encourage others too, because it seems like a lot of ways that you can connect your programming to schools. So thank you for sharing that. And thanks everyone for joining today in September in our third week of school. It's wonderful to have you here. And we do have one more School Garden Mentorship in October. So hope to see so many of these familiar faces back in October. If you have friends or colleagues that want to watch this, as a reminder, the recording of this workshop will be posted to our YouTube channel and our website. And in our program library, all the links that were shared in chat today, plus some more resources, will be shared in the program library on our website. So you can take a closer look at the resources that were mentioned in the slideshow.
And
So thank you, David, and
thank you
thanks
so
everyone
much.
else.
Thanks for inviting me. And as somebody put in the chat, but first time seed saver and feeling a bit overwhelmed, I just want to encourage everybody to make mistakes with your students and just save seeds. It doesn't matter how they turn out. It's just the act of doing that is the first step in learning.
Thank you, David. That's a beautiful invitation to all of us to be learners. It's always good to have some seeds in your pocket. Well, have a wonderful rest of the day to everyone.
Thanks.